thanks for those of us who have joined early. Tonight we're going to go through Civil Air Patrol grade abbreviations, which seems like a pretty obvious topic. But if you go through your own email and look at the various people who've emailed you over the last 2 weeks, I promise you will find people who are doing things differently. Some are maybe not as correct. Some are just plain wrong. And there's a different time to use different types of abbreviations. So we're going to walk through some of that and some of the idiosyncrasies that you'll find as you're going through this information. So firstly, for anybody who is in the room or on the phone that got my email, there's 8 options up on the screen. I've actually seen every single one of these for Lieutenant Colonel, and that's fair. Different branches of service do things a little bit differently. And then based on whether it's external or internal usage, there's a different call. So why don't we go to one of our lieutenant colonels on the phone and have them see if they can tell us which one or 2 or 3 or more of these are correct and why. We have 2 lieutenant colonels on the phone. We have a couple in the room. So I have a comment that the ones with the periods don't make any sense.
Katie, I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
What was your question, please? I didn't catch it.
Which of the examples on the screen for Lieutenant Colonel are correct and why?
I'll go with number 1.
Okay, and why do you think that's true?
Well, that's one I've been using for years.
Okay.
That's the one I've been using for years.
Well, sir, you passed the test because that is correct. Internally on emails, that is what you would use to abbreviate your grade. So do you have a guess as to what might be correct if we were making a news release?
I would say trying to make something that understandable by the public if it's non-military. Would still have to be one of the LTCs. I won't. No.
Okay.
I'd say probably number 3.
Ooh, close. 6. We got a guess for 6 from Colonel Heights in the room, and that is correct. 6. And that you can remember this because we're literally abbreviating each word.
Okay.
Right? So there's a period after the abbreviation of each part or of each word. So Lieutenant Colonel's 2 words, you're going to have 2 periods in there. And there is a space between them. So it does depend on whether it's internal or external. And as we've determined, the Lieutenant Colonel with spaces, no periods is correct for internal correspondence and memorandum. Or it would even be correct on a program banquet that's internal within our own membership. Although depending on the type of people who are there, you might want to make it external. It's really a judgment call at that point. So another thing that you'll encounter when you use Microsoft Word is you're typing along and you type first Lieutenant, and Microsoft does you the favor of making the ST superscript, which is not ever correct. A little hint for you, as soon as it does it, if you hit Control Z on your keyboard, it will undo just that little maneuver, and you can get your typing back under control. And so the same thing if you're typing out second lieutenant and you have an N in there, which you do not see in my example, which is purposeful. That will never be in superscript either. So chaplains, that's a tricky one. We had 2 chaplains respond to my email asking about which lieutenant colonel abbreviation was correct. And I will tell you that they both had it done differently in their emails. One of them had it, one of them did not quite. That's okay. That one's another little weird one because we put the chaplain abbreviation up front. We put lieutenant colonel in parentheses. So, does anybody want to explain the difference between rank and grade? Anybody in the room? Sir? Can we pick on you, our guest?
So let's go with grade is what your pay scale is, and rank is your seniority within an organization at your pay grade.
There you go. Exactly. So for us, we all have a 0 pay scale, but we determine our sort of pay scale by whether you're a captain or a major, lieutenant colonel. So captain or major are examples of your grade. And then rank is the seniority between persons of the same grade, such as date of rank. Yep. And so that's one you'll hear people refer to all the time, and they use those interchangeably, but they're not. So just kind of a little tip. So for the CAP grade abbreviations internally, this documentation that you find right here is actually available on the Washington Wing Public Affairs page. It's a few links buried in under the style section. There's a link to that at the end of this part of the presentation, so you can find this later. But all of this is online. Notice that on the left-hand side, there are a couple things of note. Second lieutenant, you notice there's no in there. When we're abbreviating internally, we have no in there. And there is a space between them. Same with first lieutenant, it's 1 ST space LT. And then for the cadets, it's C/2D space LT. And then the same for first lieutenant. This one tricks a lot of the cadets because unfortunately eServices outputs their grade incorrectly. And it does not put a space in there. So this is something we can help them with. All right. And then this is one we see all the time with no space being in lieutenant colonel. People like to truncate those as well. Let me see if there's anything else we want to cover on there. Note for cadet airman basic, it's C/AB. They often need help with that, although they don't really start sending out emails till they're much beyond that. Note the abbreviations for the NCO grades and that there are capitals, not just in the first space, but sometimes in the second or even third space. And those correspond with each new word gets a capital letter. And no spaces, correct. Over on the Air Force style or AP style grades, which we would use in external products, external public affairs products, these get a little trickier. The reason this documentation is on the Wing website is because I still check myself sometimes. So for instance, flight officer grades are not actually referred to in the AP. So these are sort of inferred. This is what's been internally accepted as our abbreviations. So unless you look at that, you're probably going to get it wrong. And then for the cadet grades, I would never remember cadet airman first class has 1 ST somewhere right in the middle of it as an abbreviation, but you still spell the rest of it out. It gets a little confusing if you're writing public affairs stuff. So these are just handy little sheets to keep around. So again, notice the difference with the second lieutenant here. That's where that in shows up. That's the only time you ever use an in second lieutenant is in public affairs products. And then note again the spaces. So if you're writing something for public affairs, you would spell out the grade the first time you use it in your release. and then abbreviate after that. And as I noted, there's no guidance for flight officer. There's also no guidance for what to do with cadets, so we just spell out cadet. And then again, that note about second lieutenant. So that is all I have on grade abbreviations. I will process this video and have it available for us on my website, and you'll be able to find all of that information there. And then here is the link for where you can find the grade abbreviation document.